Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rory. Let me therefore move on straight to our two friends from the Gulf, and let me start with Abraham Altunayan, who is from Brunel University. What do you see as the potential to support efforts in Palestine and the potential outcome of this, in impact?
I think there's, I agree with the first speaker. Definitely there is, there is a great effort from many parties in the Arab leagues, in the United States, from Asia, and I'm speaking from particularly the Gulf states, the GCC, Saudi Arabia in the top of the peace process. The peace process, they were pushing it in many directions. In 2002, their efforts to build relations, to strengthen the relation with the United States just for the sake of the peace process with between the Palestinians and the Israelis. And in 2007, there was a strong movement from the Saudi government, and they also support the leadership in Palestine economically. In 2007, they transferred between 500 to 750 million dollars. It was delivered by late 2008, and in 2009 there was another $200 million to support the economy of Palestine, and all of that just to push forward the peace process, and they fully support the independent state for Palestine.
Thank you very much, and perhaps straight to your colleague here, Ghanem Nusseibeh, who is the founder of Cornerstone Global Associates, and quite interestingly, as you can see in the biographies, he's head of the Gulf and Yemen section of the Political Capital Policy Research and Consulting Institute. And perhaps you have a very good insight into the thinking in the Gulf in terms of supporting efforts in Palestine. Perhaps you would like to share.
Of course, I must say, by disagreeing with my colleague on the left, because I think it beggars belief that there's so much money lying around in the Gulf, and the Palestinians rely on aid from DFID, from US aid, from the Canadians, and everyone else, and that's been going on for 40 years. So the regional context here is that the Gulf states have relegated themselves to being a frontline supporters of the Palestinians and the Palestinian cause to a third line. And when I look at the regional context of the future Palestinian state, I'd look at it in four categories. The first here are the Jordanians and Israel. The second is Syria, Lebanon, and Egypt. The third is the Gulf, Cyprus, and Turkey. And the fourth are the rest of the Arab world and the EU. And I must say that it feels strange to talk of Jordan as part of the regional context, because I don't think there is any other country in the Arab world that has done as much as Jordan has done for the Palestinian cause. There has been a very long-term relationship between the Jordanians and the Palestinians, and I, as a Palestinian, I think we are all eternally grateful for the Jordanian government and the Jordanian king and his predecessors for what they have done. They continue to support the Palestinians on the ground up to this day, by the way. Not many people know that. And any future solution to the Palestinian issue should take this into account. It's not just the regional context, as in going to the Arab world and asking for help and support, but I think the Jordanians need to have a say in this. I know received wisdom that is that talking of a confederation or federation has to come after the establishment of a state, and I'm happy to play along with that. But I think when we're talking of long-term solutions, we need to look more at the regional context and our relationships with our neighbors, particularly the Jordanians.
And having been involved with a lot of people from the Gulf, what is the thinking? Why, you know, as your colleague just said, why is this situation changing now? Why is there more interest now? Is it because of Iran? Is it because of geopolitical considerations?
Precisely, and it is an open meeting. I can't ask for Chatham House rules here, but what I can say is that the thinking in the Gulf is that we will invest if there is the correct return on investment, and unfortunately they did not see that. They thought the return of investment did not exist in the past. Some countries in the Gulf might have been involved simply to compete with other countries in the Arab world rather than to bring that return on investment that they thought their money would bring. Things might be changing now, and I think that is due to outside pressure, in that the DFIDs and the US aids of the world think, right, we can't afford to continue supporting the cause. You've got to put in some money.
Thank you. Let me turn therefore to our colleague from Jordan, who is obviously not speaking on behalf of the government of Jordan, but perhaps can give us an insight into Jordanian perspectives on this particular issue. It's Hassan Al-Momani. He's the director of one of our partner institutions, namely the Regional Center on Conflict Prevention at the Jordan Institute of Diplomacy.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you for Atkin Foundation. Actually, our colleagues, the first session have raised the issue of conflict resolution, conflict management, and that's well, for any resolution process to be successful, you need to have a supportive regional environment in this respect. It's not only for the resolution, it's also for the sustainability of that resolution. You need supportive regional environment. Now, if I would speak of Jordan, of course, and the Jordanian perspective over the issue of future Palestinian state, well, the geopolitical proximity, social and demographical proximity made Jordan the party most close to the Palestinian question, of course, apart from the Palestinians and the Israelis in this respect. Therefore, having a Palestinian state is purely a Jordanian interest in every sense. Whatever would happen in Palestine, whether positively or negatively, would have a direct impact on the Jordanian, particularly when it comes to security issue in this respect. And speaking of the Jordanian involvement in the Palestinian questions, actually far exceeds or before 1948 in this respect. And since 1917, actually, Jordan has been always maintained an active involvement in terms of searching and finding solution to the Palestinian question in this respect. And if I may call, many proposals being proposed by Jordanian decision makers, kings in this respect. In 1936, King Abdullah I proposed a Semitic kingdom where Arabs and Jewish would be part of one kingdom in this respect. So, however, after 1948, also Jordan continued to play an active role in that respect. After 1988, at the time when the Palestinians declared their independence, things have changed in this respect. However, Jordan respected the Palestinian decision, and of course, Jordan disengaged itself from, I would say, legally administrative aspect. And of course, throughout the 90s and so on and so forth, Jordan maintained, an active role in the issue of peace process. However, in case a Palestinian state would be declared or achieved in this respect, but actually the most important thing is to maintain the continuity, the sustainability in this respect. And since we spoke of geographical proximity, social and family and demographical aspect, so there should be it made it imperative that a form of future relationship between Jordan and the Palestinian state is something very essential in this respect. There are so many ideas and the floating scenarios in this respect, but from my perspective, the most viable scenario would be a sort of confederation, a sort of loose confederation in this respect. However, between two independent states, and that sort of confederation should be determined by the people through a democratic process based on an institutional decision in this respect. So, of course, to avoid whatever, mistrust or future, I would say, disruption of the relation in this respect.